Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Well, today we're going to be taking a look at and building the brand new Takom 1/16 scale Panzer I. And really cool because it's in North African markings, which I like to do and build up right there because we can really chip and beat up the vehicle quite a bit. So this is a brand new kit, and like I said, it's 16 scale, so that's why the box is a little bit bigger. No interior at all on it. It's strictly just the external parts of it, which at this point, I'm actually kind of happy about. I don't really want to do any more interior kits for a little while, so I think this will be great. It's not at a terrible amount of parts, some individual tracks, some really cool looking detail on it, so I'm very excited about this one. So this video is going to be a little bit of both. We're going to do a review portion, the first couple of minutes, just showing you all the parts, and then we're going to actually build it up inside there. So let's get started. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the new Panzer I from Takom in 16 scale. First of all, it's a much larger box than I thought. I thought it was going to be closer to the size of a 35th scale, you know, like Tiger or something like that. But as you can see, it's a pretty decent sized box. And of course, that goes with the parts on the inside too. I was expecting it to be closer to that size, but it is a decently large vehicle. And in my opinion, I'm very happy about this kit too because there is no interior in it. And kind of done with the interiors for right now. I want to just build a nice external model, and I think this will be just the key for us because with this one we won't have a huge thing we have to display, and we don't have to worry about building all that interior parts. So as we start off with the hull right here, the hull is a bathtub style hull. It's got lots of the detail molded onto the side, of course all the detail on the bottom. And we'll go through and look at these sprues right here. This is the upper hull portion, as well as parts for like the turret ring, pieces like that. And then we've got a bunch of the accessories. We've got some of the springs here. Here are the machine guns. They've been slide molded here on the outer edge. Even the jack, look how large the jack and the shovel are. Those are kind of cool to see that. And these have all been slide molded too, the lights and the ports where the machine gun barrels are going to come out, as well as the tubing for the muffler here. Then we've got, from here on, most of the sprues are just going to duplicate, so you're going to get multiples of the same one. So this is some of the road wheels and suspension pieces. See the leaf springs. Another slide molded part. And like I said, you get two of those. Those all collapsed on me. And then here's the rest of the road wheels and the drive sprocket. I think this is actually kind of cool to put together because using these big parts, I think it'll be a lot easier. And of course, like I said, you get two, one for each side. And we also have the upper part of the hull, the fenders. This is probably why it's in such a big box, because this sprue right here is so large. And now, two other quick things, and then we'll get to the tracks. So we have the turret and part of the upper part of the hull. You can see the size on those right there. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the tracks. And they are individual tracks that go all the way around. There are only 3 little connection points on each one, so easy cleanup on that. And then with those tracks, we have track pins. Once again, pretty easy to cut off. And the nice part about these is, and you shouldn't have to worry that, oh, they're individual tracks. I built up a portion of them right here, and they actually go together very easily, and they are fully workable. You don't need to glue them. You can just push the track pin right into place, and it holds tight. And as you can see right here, we have a nice, this is 40 links of track. This took me probably a grand total of like maybe 15 minutes to cut clean and pin them together. So not much, but it's going to be nice detail having the individual tracks on this kit. They also give you some photo etch brass, the muffler guards that we can form, and some metal wire for the tow cable, and then of course multiple decals for different units inside. And then of course some clear parts for the headlights. Okay, I first started off by building one whole side of the suspension, and that's mainly to see, as we're going forward, if there's anything I need to keep an extra eye on to point out to you guys as we build it. So this way we can figure out if there's any problems going forward. But this one is pretty straight and easy. One thing you do have to maintain is making sure that certain parts go in the right direction, because they share a similar part for both sides of the vehicle. So you just want to make sure when you're putting it on that you really pay attention to the instructions, because sometimes it's just a matter of flipping one piece around to get the part to fit for the other side. But other than that, pretty straightforward. Also in the kit, there are enough return rollers and road wheels to do the Panzer I-B, which is a stretch version of this, which they add another road wheel and another return roller up on top there. So there are the extra ones in there. So that probably means, I would assume, that we'll probably get a Mark or a B version come out in the near future. Okay, to start off, we're going to start assembling the road wheels. Now, the road wheels have an insert that you have to cut off and sand off the little burrs, and then we will place those into front and back on the wheel itself. Now, keep in mind, this one we haven't done any sanding on yet, but there are a bunch of injector pen marks on the back of that. So when you're doing it, try to remember to keep that towards the inside, because even if you do spend all the time of getting those out, you could still possibly see them down the road. But if you keep in mind that it's always going to go in, you'll never see them after that point. So we need to make up 12 total of this road wheel with the front and back insert, because there's going to be an insert like this on the other side as well. But we'll glue those up in a minute. And then we have to start assembling the suspension arms, which actually, since we're talking about it, let's actually go ahead and glue this one up. Show you how it goes together. I just started sanding these just a little while ago to get most of the burr out, but we'll go ahead and fill out any of these seams in here as well in a bit. So after you put that on, a little bit of cement in here, and then just a touch right down there, and then this piece will plug right in just like that. And that is going to create one side of the suspension, and then the other side will come in, and it'll, when we flip this, flip it around like this, it'll pinch between the two wheels. There'll be another center support, but we'll show you that in a minute. We got to let these dry quite a bit because we want to make sure they're nice and sturdy when we go ahead and start putting the wheels and the center hubs in. Okay, now I'm going to show you how these parts go together, and you do have to pay very close attention to which side you're building up and how you put these pins in to make sure that the springs are going in the right direction once you do put them in. So it's just going to be a matter of putting this on. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to tell you too, there are two little inserts inside each one of the wheels that snap into place there, and with that glued in, we can go ahead and drop both of the wheels into place like that, and then glue the other side in just like this, and then that wheel section will plug right into the side just like that. And this section right here is actually built the identical way. The only difference is you have the bigger wheel and a longer arm. But you'll notice how the springs on this one go this point toward the front back, this points towards the front. Okay, now we've glued both of those into place, but we want to make sure that they're in the right position. So you want to put the actual vehicle on its wheels, because this stuff, the suspension can flex on this. So with a set of wheels on the other side to make sure it's level, we can put that on. And finally, we can add the outer brace that locks the two suspension arms together like that. So that completes one whole side of suspension, and I've kind of been going back and forth between the two of them, working them and kind of showing you how everything goes together. But as you can see, it's a little bit time consuming sanding all the wheels and pieces like that, but actually fit and assembly are very easy. With the lower part of the hull and the suspension all done, now we can start working on the tracks. So now it's a matter of turning these, which are all slide molded, because you can see right here they're all been hollowed out, which is really nice. And these are the track pins, which are easy enough to cut out. There are only 3 little connection points on each one of the tracks, so it cleans up fairly quickly. So as you can see right here, I'll just kind of give you an idea. These have already been cleaned, so it's just a matter of popping them together and running the track pin down in the middle here. I've also found too that if you flex the track like this, bend it a little bit, the pin usually will want to slide in a little bit quicker and easier. It lines things up, and then once it gets in like that, it's ready to go. And here is, takes 84 pieces per side. This is 64 pieces right here, so we got just 20 more to go. No glue, and they seem to hold up pretty well. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time putting the rest of these together, and then I'll quickly just show you what they look like on the vehicle once I get these last ones done. And that is what one of the sets of track look like. And I did glue that wheel into place because there was no real way to make it stay and spin at the same time, but as you can see, everything else spins properly, and we've got a nice set of tracks on here. We left one pin somewhere on here, right here, sticking out a little bit too, so we can pull them off because we want to paint those separately. With that done now we can go ahead and take the tracks off and start attaching the fenders and some of these front plates, which I'll get all ready, and we'll show you how those go on. And now with the bow plate on, we can go ahead and put the fenders into place. Now it does call out to put on a lot of the tools and stuff now, but we're going to hold off obviously on that. We want to wait a little bit before we put the tools on so we can paint them separately. I was just test fitting this a minute ago, and tight fit. Just got to flex the body just a little bit just to get everything to pop in there, and the fenders fit on really well. Now we are just attaching all of the accessories that go on the vehicle other than tools, and things like the searchlight, or headlight I should say, on this. And with that done, we can put that to the side, and now we can start working on the upper part of the hull. And this is made up in such a way that there are all these individual pieces that get layered into a place. You can see right here, and they all get stacked up on there to build up the armor plate on it there. So what I'm going to do right now is we'll kind of speed up the film a little bit, but I'll show you all the different parts going onto the upper hull. Okay, while we're letting the upper part of the hull dry, I thought I would go ahead and put the front fenders on. And you might be wondering too why I put all of those facets of the Panzer I's upper hull together in, well, it looked like maybe one sitting to you guys on the fast forward film, but we actually did it over the course of like maybe 10 minutes. But the reason I did it all together rather than letting each one of them dry is I've found in the past, now this was not the case on this one, but sometimes when you're doing multi-facet piece construction like that, if you let one fully dry and if it's not 100% correct, when you go to put the next one in, you notice the problem on it. So this way, I know if we put all the pieces together as we're going around, we make sure we keep them all nice and tight and they go together just properly. So actually we can let it dry just like this too. So this is going to snap right into place right here. And there's our upper hull. We can go ahead and glue that in a few minutes. And now we get to assemble the engine deck. Now you do have to go ahead and put in all of these hinges first. And this kind of crazy looking piece I assembled in advance, just so it'll be a little bit easier to show you how this all goes together. So then after that, it's just a matter of putting all of the little hatches on. And they all fit in there nice and tightly, including these. And then we just have to glue these into place. And we have our whole engine deck ready to do. So I'm going to get all those parts glued on, and then we'll show you attaching it to the actual vehicle. And with all those parts glued on, it's just a matter of gluing this into place down in here. Snapping it in there. We'll get some glue on it. Also, you may have noticed too, when I was putting on these front fenders a while ago, I had them on backwards, but we noticed it right away and took care of it before it dried. So now we're going to get this glued on, and then it's going to be on to working on the turret. One other thing I want to show you guys too is we have to put the little screens on the mufflers on the back. Unfortunately, they don't give you a template to bend it around. But what I found was this Gundam marker is, you can see the size of the barrel here. This actually works really well because you're overdoing it, but the steel, or the brass in this case, is kind of springy, as you can imagine. So by bending around the smaller surface, wrapping it around, you get that, and it comes out perfect for it. So definitely recommend bending it around something a little bit smaller and then locking it into place like that, and you'll get the nice shape out of it. Now with that being said, now we can actually go ahead and start assembling the turret. Now I went ahead and put all the little vision ports and things on the side there, but other than that, there is not a heck of a lot else to do in putting on the turret. So there's the turret bottom, which will glue right into place just like that. The actual front here, the mantlet, and we've got two machine guns that we will mount into place here, as you can see, just like that, making sure they're put in correctly, right side up. So that'll get glued in just like that. Then of course it'll get glued up in the front here, and then there's a giant hatch up on the top here, which I did put a few of the little accessories on, like the hinges and things. So as you can see, that's it when it comes to doing the turret. So I will go ahead and put those pieces together, those 4 or 5 pieces, and then I will put it on top of the vehicle. And here we are. We've gone ahead and put all the little accessories on, The jack, because it's going to get painted body color. We've also put on all the little hooks, things like that, all the little minor stuff. So it's I would say mostly complete at this point. I've also sprayed it with Tamiya's gray primer to check out any little flaws that we might have, and I actually saw one on the fire extinguisher, which we've sanded out, so we'll put another coat of paint on that pretty soon. So now it's just a matter of going ahead and putting on the black and white coat, and then the desert yellow, because we are going to paint this in North Africa. So I do want to put the black and white shadow coat underneath, and that way we get a nice fading of the paint on there. I don't want to chip it up too badly. We'll do a little dry brushing to do that, but I think that'll add a nice effect to it. Okay, what I'm doing right now is, since we gray primered the entire vehicle, I'm going to take German gray, which is supposedly the base color that would have been underneath the North African vehicles, and going to highlight all of the edges of the panels. And I think what that'll do is that'll make all the paint stick out that much more, make it look worn. I don't think we're going to need to go ahead and do the white coat on it, because the light gray is pretty light to begin with. Now we're going to start off using the Mission Models MMP 016, the Sand Grau RAL 7027. And we're going to put on light coats of this paint right here, so the gray, the dark gray, still shows through. And once that is done now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a lighter mix of MMP 019 Dunkelgelb Late, which is a really faded dark yellow, but it's a bright color. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go over just some of the highlights of the panels, just to make them pop a little bit more and give it a little bit more of a sun-faded look to it. And the last thing I'm going to do now is use a little MMP 038 US Desert Tan Modern. And what I'm doing with this one right here is we've thinned this down tremendously, more than 50% thinner on it, and we're just doing a light little coat into all the little cracks and stuff. And it's a little bit of a darker brown, so it'll give it a little bit of a dirt effect. Okay, we're going to spend a little bit of time now putting on some decals. I'm using a little Mark Fit Strong as a base coat. Then we're going to slide the Africa Corps symbol into place there. And we will probably go ahead and put multiple coats on most of them. Okay, so you saw me put that one on. The one that is going to be very difficult, I think, to put on, because of this giant piece of metal that would normally be sticking out on it, is the big giant 825. So we're going to be having to put quite a few coats of Mark Fit Strong on it. Now I've gone ahead and scored the decal between the 8, the 2, the 2 and the 5, both on the top and bottom, but not completely all the way through. And I'll explain why I did that, because let's get this one on first before we go any further. Hopefully we can get it on without too much problem. And then we're going to go ahead and start to apply some coats of Mark Fit. And let this slowly, let the decal itself start to conform on its own without having to force it. And I'll show you the other side here. I've put on about 3 coats of Mark Fit. Now we still need to do a little bit more, but you can really start to see that the decal starts to set around everything. You might have to poke a hole or 2 in there to let some of the air out, but I probably got about another 2 or 3 coats of Mark Fit to put on this, and then taking a cotton swab, we can kind of push out any of the air bubbles, anything like that, just softly on it after it's almost dry. We don't want to do it while it's wet, or you could, like that, peel it up. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the decals on, and after we get them all completely set up, we'll come back and show you what they look like. Okay, with the chipping already done now we can go ahead and put some dirt and grime on here. We're going to start off using sand yellow deposits and a light dust deposit and kind of mix those back and forth, and then we'll go over it with some grime. The deposits here are actually a mixture of pigment and wash. Couldn't get that out. Pigment and wash mixed together. So using a stippling effect, we want to first build up a little bit back here. And it'll go on a little thick to begin with right here, but we can take off any excess that we don't want later on. But kind of blending the two together. And now, before that fully dries, I've taken 3 pigments. I've taken a little sienna, a light sienna, and then a little track rust, which is like kind of a reddish, very, very tiny amount. Mix the 3 of them together into a powder here, and then we're going to go ahead and start applying that inside here randomly to create a little bit of dirt effect that's on the inside here. And all these will start to blend together to create the look we want. Okay, I'm going to show you just a brief area of the tracks and how we're going to weather those up. First of all, I painted the entire track with NATO black, and then we went over it with our track finishing color, which I've mixed up right here. And it's primarily 75% NATO brown, 20% NATO black, and 5% red. And then we just lightly mist over that, and that gives it kind of a little bit of a tarnished look. Now I'm using a little enamel wash, and we're putting on some track wash, which is just really a dark brown. And then we're going to use a mixture of track rust, sienna, and then light sienna. Primarily the main component is going to be light sienna, but we're going to use a little bit of those other ones to kind of give it a mottled effect. So we'll just start, and this is the kind of the dirty, messy part, and just start pounding that in, occasionally taking a little bit of the lighter ones and blending it. And then some of the darker one. The track rust, they call it track rust, but I think it just comes out as like a darker pigment. And then you can blend them all together. So this takes a little bit of time and makes a lot of mess. So that obviously makes quite a bit of mess, so we'll work on that a little bit. But once you're done, you will get this effect. This one is all dry and set up now. You can also see that the dirt effect is starting to show up nicely inside there as that dries too. So tracks go on very easily too because of having been pinned, and the 84 fit just right. And so what I will do now is we will finish this up. This takes a good half an hour or so to get this the way you want it, and just keep using the old stuff on it and just keep pounding it in there, and obviously remember to do both sides. And what I'll do is I'm going to finish this one up, go ahead, put it on the vehicle, and then we'll come back and finish up the weathering. Okay, we've got all of the tools in place now. We have the tracks on. We put all that weathering effect all over that. And now what I'm doing is finally just going over We did a little bit of panel lining and a little streaking, very, very light throughout most of the top of the vehicle. Kind of kept most of it to the lower portions of it here. But what I'm doing now is, you can kind of see what we're doing here is putting just a touch of brown panel liner on any of the bolts or the screw heads, things like that, to make them stick out and pop a little bit more, just so it's not so buried. Because you can imagine, touch that one right in there. You can imagine that those little screw heads and things like that get full of little grime and dirt, things like that. So, but other than that, we're not going to do too much more on it. I am going to put one more coat of flat over the entire top, trying to stay away from the track since we already put the pigment on. I should have put the flat on earlier, but actually forgot about it. But I think it'll be okay. And I've also made up some extra tracks, and we tarnished those a little bit more to make them look like, they're not on the vehicle, so the rust or tarnish is not wearing off as they run it through the sand. But you can imagine them up there. I'm probably going to put two little spikes coming out like they welded it to the hull to drop the tracks on, or maybe we'll just throw them on the back. Not too sure about that yet. Here we are, guys. Here is our completed model. We've done all of the weathering that we talked about on it. I did put one more coat of clear coat on it to seal everything in. And really like the way this kit turned out. I like the weathering that we did on it. Plus, also the kit itself is incredible. The tracks, all of that stuff, super easy to put together, but very, very detailed. Really liking the 16 scale. So, like I was telling you earlier, there are extra road wheels in return rollers in this, so they'll probably do the B version, which is the stretch version, and I'm hoping that Takom will come out with a 16 scale Panzer II, and maybe, if we're really lucky, they'll move on to a Panzer III / Sturmgeschütz. No interiors, I don't need the interiors, just do it just like this. Make it affordable for the modeler, and just a really nice external kit, because that's the most important, at least to me, because I'm not going to ever see what's inside of this anyway. So the kit has a retail of $60 in the United States, so it's a decent price for such good quality. And of course, we have them available now in our store, as well as our online store, andyshhq.com, and you can pick one up those there. But I would definitely recommend this kit. It did go together very well, and no problems with any of the fit or the finish on it. So I want to thank you guys as always for watching, and please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.